Hey, what's up? This is a political brown kid here. And this is just one thing that I really want to say to all of the fellas out there. And this probably even applies to you women. So this isn't really just a fella thing, but I normally do speak to the fellas from a fella's perspective because of what we go through. Um, but women, this can apply to you as well. The one thing that I will say is this, because I've gone through this situation before. When you're dealing in a when you have gone through a breakup with someone and you have children with that person, you have a tie with that person, particularly dependents, children, even if they're no longer dependents, they're grown kids. If you have a relationship or you have a tie with that other individual and you and that other individual really aren't, I would say you're not in a good space. You're not even in a decent, you can even be in a decent space. I don't care. Not unless you still consider that person your best friend and you're like, we're broken up, but that person is still the love of my life and my best friend. Unless you have those feelings, if you have those feelings, then what I'm going to say is not going to apply to you. But if for all the other fellas out there who have an ex and you kind of like, okay, yeah, she's a selfish joker. I'm not thinking about her anymore. Possibly, I'm over and done with it. But I know how she is, and that doesn't give you warm and fuzzy feelings. The one thing that I would say to you is this: regardless of how many assets you have, I don't care whether you just have $10 in your bank account. The one thing that you will definitely need, and it's going to be beyond my expertise to tell you the next steps, is to get a trust put into place. Not a will. I'm not talking about a will. I'm talking about a trust. You're going to want to set up a trust for your dependents. If you plan on leaving, when you part this earth and you plan on leaving anything to your children that you share with these women that you no longer care about and don't want to support ever, don't want them seeing a dime of your money, get a trust. Because the bottom line is what's going to happen is this. Most people know men live shorter lives than women. And regardless, no one knows when they plan on parting this earth, unfortunately. But the situation comes down to this, and I'm just kind of thinking about it from my own perspective and from my situation. It's all fun and dandy. People can be nice to you when they need something, and when they don't need you, they only look at you as a resource. And then once they get the resources or the needs from you, then they can go back to treating you the way they want to treat you or act like you don't exist at all. When you encompass that situation and then you go out here and you just walking around the earth with just a will, if you were to pass before the other person, before your ex-partner that you share children with, trust me, you can trust and believe that other person is going to be directing your funds, because once everything goes through probate, and once the probate judge and once all of your assets are divided up, and even the stuff that's not going to go well, the stuff that's going through probate, the stuff that once the will and everything's done, and your personal assets, and if you have I don't know, a Dodge Charger, Hellcat, um, a souped up Lexus, I don't know what you have, but you can best believe that the one that you don't want to be sitting in your car is going to be sitting in your car, because your kid's going to be riding it around and she's going to be like, oh, you know what? I need to go to the store. My car broke down today. Can I borrow so-and-so car? The car that your daddy left you? Sure, mama. And sure enough, because the kids love the mama. Kids always love their mom. And sure enough, mama going to be riding around, driving your Hellcat, driving your Lexus, when her car break down or when it's convenient for her. Well, hell, the kids might even give it to her. If you left your kids any money, sure enough, if mama need to be taken care of when she gets be 50 and 60 and 70 years of age, and mama needs some money to pay for the electric bill or to take a trip and, do whatever it is she needs to do, you can best believe those kids are going to use those funds that you left for them and that you built up, and they're going to use it and help mama out. So the way that you can go about doing that is, I would say the best way that you can go about at least keeping her from having access to your funds, to any real estate you may own, any businesses you may own, and things of that nature, is to get a trust. And in that way, you can have whomever you trust pun intended or no pun intended, but the person that you trust can direct those funds. And then that way you can say, hey, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm only going to divvy out $10,000 a year to each of my kids. They're going to have their own job. They should be working. They should be taking care of themselves through their own jobs. But I'll give them $5,000 a year, $10,000 a year out of the trust. And that person who's directing your trust will be managing and divvying out those funds. So you can trickle that money out. And trust me, if you trickle it out to them, the kids are going to be like, hey, look, I don't have that much money to give, mama. And, I don't get that much from my trust. And then you direct it and have that trust set up so none of them funds or the kids don't get any lump sum payments from those funds until both of y'all have parted this earth. That will be my stipulation, is to say, the stipulation is my kids, everything stays in this trust until Shorty parts this earth too. And then once she's gone, then they can have the money and do whatever it is they need to do. But that's just the approach that I would take to it. So once again, if you're dealing with somebody that you really don't want to have access to your funds, definitely look into getting a trust as opposed to just going the will route or even just dying intestate, which means not having anything in place at all. And then also too, as far as for next steps, I can't help you with that. That's where you got to talk to someone who specializes in trust so that they can go ahead and kind of walk you through, and they'll kind of ask the questions, or you can explain what it is that you're trying to accomplish to that individual, and they can properly set the trust up in a manner that's effective and carries out your wishes. So once again, this is the Political Brown Kid. Just wanted to drop this little gem on you. Take care.